Can we please protect our quarterback? Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers lose the 60th annual Labor Day Classic to the Saskatchewan Roughriders by a score of 34-30. So firstly, I want to start off with apologies for the very make-do setup. I do not have my microphone with me, so we got just my laptop. I'm actually in our car recording here because this is kind of the best. There's not really another good spot, and I'm not able to do it in the room. We got people in there and whatnot, and so I figured I'd go to the car, hung up the bomber flag as best as I could, and we're gonna make do with this for today. So apologies for the drop in quality in terms of the pizzazz, but hopefully there's quality coming out of here, but who knows? It's me, so it's possible it's not. And, man, it's unfortunate as the game the Bombers played today, with all of the things that went right for them and all the things that went wrong for them, they would have beaten every single team except for Saskatchewan or Calgary. That is just the reality of the game that they played today. Now, there's a lot that I have to unpack about this game. This video is probably going to be a little bit longer than usual, simply because it's Labor Day. But Nick Dembski is in. Schoen is back. So Dembski is in. It looked like he wouldn't be in terms of when he got hurt last week, and he was in a limited capacity, but I wouldn't say that it was incredibly noticeable in this game. Like, it didn't look like he was playing relatively injured. I thought maybe at times he should have went to him a little bit more, but I don't think it didn't look like his injury hindered him in any noticeable way. Schoen is back. That was good to see. There was some key passes that we got for him. Vanterpool was a healthy scratch. Now, I have to imagine that this is simply because Gabe Wallace is Canadian, and I guess that allows us to meet our requirement, because in terms of a skilled offensive lineman, in my opinion, Vanterpool is past Wallace. So if we get rid of if Wallace isn't playing and Vanterpool is in that spot and we still meet our requirement, then I'm just completely bewildered, as I did not like the way that Wallace was playing this game instead of him. And in my opinion, the game only proved that. So Radek Kramdi would be out for this game, but I thought Allen actually at safety was decent. Not perfect, but decent. But let's get right into it. In the first quarter, Zach Collaros completes a pass for Dalton Schoen right away, trying to reestablish that connection with him coming off of injury. The Bombers then, on the next few plays, can't really get much going, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit annoyed as Gabe Wallace got beat both of those plays, and that was the reason that Zach Collaros got the pressure that he did. It was the guy that got to Collaros both times, that was Wallace's guy. So I wasn't pleased with him there. The Bombers forced a punt. It was an illegal punt out of bounds, 10-yard penalty against the Bombers. Ryder first down. Riders get a first down and get that ball moving a little bit, but then they get stopped, so they're forced to punt. And like the Bombers, they have a legal punt out of bounds, 10-yard penalty against them. Bombers are the first down. Zach Collaros would take his first sack of the night at around this point, and he's just getting all kinds of pressure, though. I'm seriously, the Saskatchewan Roughrider defensive line was just a complete and utter problem for the Bombers. And actually, I'm going to try to get it pulled up here to see if I can get the stats pulled up to see exactly how many times Collaros got sacked today. Well, let's see here. I count 1 for Thurman, 2 for Kearney, 1 for Johnson, 1 for Sot. That's not good enough. 5 sacks given up is just not a good amount to give up in a game. I would like to see it more at 1, 2, or 0. And so, it was a rough night for the group in charge of protecting Collaros. But I'm not saying that it's just that they played poorly. They're going against a very good defensive line in Saskatchewan. But even despite that, if this is going to be a championship team, they gotta be able to get past that. They gotta be able to figure it out. You have to be, just because the other team's good doesn't mean that you don't, the expectation isn't that you're better. So It is what it is. Kyrie Wilson would go on a blitz and he'd get a nice knockdown on defense. Bombers would try to get their drive going shortly afterwards. It doesn't get anywhere. Both teams at this point playing really, really tight defensively. I don't think the Bombers were perfect defensively, but I thought they did a relatively decent job. It was one of those things when Saskatchewan got momentum, though, the Bombers weren't always the best at responding and really, like, there were times where it got a little bit out of control and they were able to get these deep ball threats and it became a bit of an issue. James Vaughters would have a nice tackle of AJ Ouellette in the backfield. There'd be a huge pass for Nick Dembski, and then holy shit, Kevin's Clercius with a ridiculous catch deep down the field. Zach Collaros was like, if you weren't sure about Zach Collaros going into this game, Zach Collaros, he's the man. There's a reason that even at his age, even with him declining, he is still a top 3 quarterback in this league. And it's because of some of the passes that he was putting through. But credit to Clercius. I didn't know he had it in him to do that kind of wild catch near the end of the first quarter there. But, credit to him. It was a wonderful catch. Bombers would start the second quarter on 2nd and 5. And Strevler would go in here, which I thought a little bit of a bold take. 5 yards away. It's a bit of a distance, and they would get it in, and Brady Oliveira would get a touchdown. One of the few times you'd use Brady Oliveira this game, and I have a problem with that. Conversion is good, 7-0 Winnipeg. The Riders would then take a holding penalty on the kickoff. On kickoff return, it was a 10-yard penalty, and then they would fumble it. Bombers get on it. It is their ball on the 5-yard line. And again, they then put Strevler in, and so I guess to try to get this through. So Trevor Harris on the play, the reason this ball comes loose is because he runs into Yoshi Hardrick, and the ball comes out that way. So we jump on it, and I don't know how I feel about this, putting Strevler in and then just running an incredibly predictable, like, if we're 2, maybe 3 yards away, yeah, but I don't know, because that's the thing. When you have Collaros in, I wouldn't even be opposed to the idea of having Zach Collaros in, having him allude to the pass and then run it himself. He's done it a few times this year. But when you put Strevler in, you're so obviously telling the defense this is a run play and that Strevler's most likely not passing it. Because even if you remember a few weeks back to one of our games in Winnipeg, I want to say it was the game we beat Toronto in Winnipeg. Chris Strevler nearly threw that game away with a horrible interception in the end zone. And so the Riders, it's not like they haven't done their film. Corey Mace, that he saw that play. And he knows the Bombers don't have the confidence in Chris Strevler to make that pass in the red zone. And so it's incredibly obvious it's going to be a run play. And they're able to force it back. And Castillo hits a 10-yard field goal. And I was glad that we got points there, but it felt like such a huge missed opportunity. You are on the 5-yard line, 1st and 5 even, not even 2nd and 5, 1st and 5. You got to be able to get a touchdown there. That's one of those things where if you're getting a field goal, as much as that's good, you're totally leaving points on the board there. So huge missed opportunity for the Bombers. I'm not going to say that that's the play that lost them the game, as obviously not. I find the notion of just saying this is the one play that lost them the game kind of ridiculous. But I think that was one of those things where there was a collection of missed opportunities and mistakes that collectively resulted in the Bombers losing this game. Whereas I think if they just fix some of those, I think we see this go another way. But I think you're leaving points on the board when you're there. The Riders would drive. Their first pass would hit Joe, coming back from the Indianapolis Colts. That was bound to happen. He got a nice ovation from the crowd for that. There was a really good defensive play by Cam Allen at safety. So good play for him. Gets in front of the ball. And then the Riders go to punt and Wheelie Jefferson goes offside. And I'm not going to lie, this is one of the penalties I was the most frustrated about tonight, because he goes offside here. So let's keep this in mind, Kate. So Willie Jefferson goes offside. The and the Riders would be forced to punt. They would be punting here, but now they get a first down. Now we got lucky that they didn't end up scoring on this drive, and it went back and forth a bit before that. But if the Riders scored on that drive, like, I'm not gonna lie, Willie Jefferson, I love Willie. I don't know how I feel about him playing on third down when the Riders are going to punt. Because Willie Jefferson is really, really good at getting right on the ball and getting right in there. But one of the reasons is because occasionally he runs offside. Is because he's so quick, he's sometimes too quick for the play. That is really dangerous when you're talking about the team literally in a punt where they're voluntarily giving up possession because they feel they have to. Having a guy out there that takes a bit more of those penalties, I'm not sure how I feel about. It is what it is, though. But thankfully, we would stop that drive. Bombers trying to get the run game going, and it's just not going anywhere. And I don't feel like this is a Brady Oliveira thing. I think it's a collection of a few things. Number one, I think there are some running plays, some plays where we should have ran the ball, and we don't. I think having more run-pass options would be really good. A guy like Zach Collaros, he's a veteran quarterback. He can make that play. You know that when he knows when he gets to that line of scrimmage, he can look at that defense and be like, okay, I see, this is what I'm seeing. I think we need to pass at this play. I think we need to run at this play. I think Jason Hogan giving up a little bit of control and giving more to Zach Collaros is generally a good thing when you have a veteran quarterback that is going to be in the CFL Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame, or first ballot. And so, yeah, I thought that there was some mistakes in managing the run game in that sense. And Collaros would get sacked, and the ball comes out. Riders have the ball on the 7-yard line. So the Bombers essentially do what the Riders did, make the same mistake, which just sucks. And AJ Ouellette goes in and gets the Rider touchdown. Conversion is good. It's now 10-7 for Winnipeg. Then would have an illegal block on the Bomber kickoff return. So that's not great. And then there'd be a great run by Brady Oliveira. The Bombers would then punt, and the Riders take an illegal block, and the ball is on the 9-yard line. However, the Riders would then march the field here. There would be a great pass for Dante Myers, and a huge pass for Tommy Neild, and it's a touchdown. Convert is good. 14-10 Saskatchewan. And this is then where I'm kind of at that point where I'm thinking, the Riders were on the 7-yard line. They converted. They got that touchdown when they're in tight on the ends on that end zone. The Bombers, 2 yards closer, didn't get it done. That's why this isn't a tie game. That's why this is 14-10 Saskatchewan. The Bombers drive would then start. There'd then be a small pass that would get dropped. I'm not going to lie, there was a couple of these. There's one I saw for Brady Oliveira, one for Peyton Logan. And I'm not even just saying this was Brady's fault and Logan's fault. Collaros threw a couple of these a little bit short. You know, it's one of those things where it seems like a nothing easy pass, but still means you have to make it. You know what I mean? So want to see that get a little bit tightened up. Felt like we had some big missed opportunities on some of those plays where I thought, man, if Brady Oliveira made that catch, he's got at least 8, maybe 10 yards if he's pushing it, which Brady Oliveira is always pushing it. So I certainly could have seen that. There'd be a huge attempt for Dembski, but it bounces off the helmet. There were a couple deep ball chances earlier in the game that we went for it, and it just didn't work out because it was bouncing off something. It goes back and forth a little bit. Collaros would then get sacked again as Gabe Wallace missed his guy. He got Collaros, and I was frustrated. Castillo goes for a 50-yard field goal attempt, and it's missed. The Riders would get tackled deep. They're on like the 3-yard line, whatever it was, but they knee out the clock, and that's the end of the first half. 14-10 Saskatchewan. And I was actually originally going to start talking about the third quarter, but at halftime ran into one of you. So hello to Carson of Rider Pride _89 on Instagram. You guys should give him a follow. He's got good content there. So was very glad to bump into him. So I love meeting you guys. If you guys ever see me at one of the games, don't be afraid to say hi. So be like, hey, I follow the channel. I always love meeting you guys. And yeah, I had a good chat with everyone there. One thing I will say I always love about the Labor Day Classic is, for all the stuff I rag on about Saskatchewan as a Bomber fan, they're always extremely respectful whenever the vast majority of them are incredibly nice people whenever they're incredibly welcoming. Love that. It's funny. It's a vicious rivalry, but it's also a very friendly one in that sense. But third quarter, Riders start with the ball. They're forced to punt. Calero sacked again, I think third time of the game at this point, as the Riders' defensive line is just a problem for Winnipeg. Riders try pushing down the field, and their O-line was doing really, really well in the run block. I don't think A.J. Ouellette is a better running back than Brady Oliveira. I think Brady Oliveira is better, but I think the Rider offensive line was giving way more support to A.J. Ouellette, and the Riders offensive coordinator was running more run plays. It seemed like he had more faith in them. Like Jason Hogan, for being a former running backs coach, seems he doesn't like running the ball. So, bit of an interesting situation there. Brett Lawther would hit a 34-yard field goal, making this 17-10 Saskatchewan. Bombers would drive the field, and Nick Dembski would grab the touchdown. Conversion is good. 17-17 tie game. Could have been 20-17 for us, but it is what it is. There'll be a big pass for Dante Myers for Trevor Harris. The Riders would then be pushing this downfield like crazy, and then Anderson runs that in for a touchdown. The conversion, though, is wide left, making it 23-17 for Saskatchewan, and everyone in that building was wondering, is this going to come back to bite us? And thankfully for Rider fans, at least, it would not. But we're now in the fourth quarter, and they would start the fourth quarter. They do like this. It's like seventh inning stretch, but they do it in the fourth quarter. And it's more of kind of a sea shanty, which I thought was kind of funny for a landlocked province. But I guess it's a tradition at Rider games. I think I've seen them do that in prior years. I always question it. I always find it a little funny, but it is what it is. There'll be an incredible run by Brady Oliveira. However, this is ruined by a illegal procedure penalty. So, dumb penalty, killing potential first down. Uno. There would then be a great pass for Dylan Mitchell. However, the Riders challenge for offensive pass interference against Nick Dembski. Challenge is successful. I'm not going to lie. I think the challenge, I think the Riders were right on that. It's now 2nd and 19 when we should have already had a first down. So, let's try this play again. Winnipeg goes offside. 2nd and 24. We should have had a first down. Play disciplined. And then we decide to run the ball because we think we're getting 24 yards running. Stupid. Because that's what we're going to run the ball when we finally don't have a chance to get the first down there. And Brady Oliveira fumbles it. Ball's on the 35-yard line now. And the Riders got it. They're pushing. Bombers struggling with the run game. Riders running that ball down, and Anderson grabs himself another touchdown after just a completely mismanaged offense, completely undisciplined. That, for me, was one of the most frustrating drives where it felt like it's not even like Saskatchewan was doing anything crazy. It's just the Bombers were shooting themselves in the foot, shot after shot after shot. Gotta play discipline. So the Riders would then go for 2, and they get it, and so that, so they would be successful. It would be a corner route for a Joe, making this 31-17 Saskatchewan. There's actually 2 offsetting misconduct penalties after the touchdown, but again, they're offsetting. So the Bomber offense would start at the 28-yard line. Offense just not getting anywhere, and I wrote down here, not gonna lie, Jason Hogan is just not adjusting to what the Rider defense is doing, because the Rider defense had been adjusting all game to what the Bombers were showing. Their defense had been adjusting accordingly. Their offense had been adjusting. Jason Hogan just didn't really adjust and never ran it and never, it was a bit frustrating, which is why I feel like a lot of Bomber games, we'd arguably sometimes have a better first half than the second half. Now, we eventually got into desperation mode and really started ramping it up. But I would like us to stop having to get to that point Like, it's just frustrating. But Bombers punt, Bombers would punt, and then the Riders would end up doing the same. 6:20 left in the ball game. And then the Bombers get possession again, try moving it forward. They can't, and they're forced to punt. And Mario Alford fumbles it. Bombers get possession, and now I'm thinking, great, you have a great opportunity here that was kind of gifted to you, I'm going to be real. And there was a good pass for Kevin Clarcius, and then a touchdown for Wheatfall, which was a ridiculous throw, an absolute missile by Zach Collaros, perfectly placed. And we fall with the perfect catch. That is the deep ball receiver potential I have been waiting for with Wheatfall. I want to see that every game now. I want to see more of that. Perfect. Conversion is good. 31-24 Saskatchewan, and you can tell a little bit of nerves were getting in there in a lot of the Rider fans. 3:57 left in the game. The Riders would push, though. They would do a bit of a strange play where the Riders would fake a standard play on third down and punt it, so that way we wouldn't have a returner back. Now, they would tackle in the end zone to grab a rouge. So, a lot of them were frustrated because they thought, Rider fans were frustrated because they thought this should have been a safety. The reason this was not a safety was because he had the ball past the end zone and he ran into the end zone on his own accord. Now, he was tackled at that point, but it would have been a safety if he had that ball in the end zone and he had not made any forward progress past that. Like, it's a bit different if he's tackled back into it, but because he ran back into his own end zone and then was tackled, it was just a single and not a safety. A bit of a, I understand the confusion here. I thought it was a safety at 2 at first, but upon seeing the replay, I actually think Andre Pruitt gets the call right here. I actually thought the game was actually officiated pretty well. I don't think it was perfect. I think there were some problems. I think Sergio Castillo had that ball in the onside kick, but when you have a guy that's like 120 pounds soaking wet sitting there with guys way bigger and stronger than him pulling on that ball for like 20 seconds to get it out, it is what it is. But anyways, so Collaros would get sacked on the next drive for the Bombers. And then Dembski receives one of the most blatant PI calls I've ever seen, and they rightfully call this. A lot of times, again, I've said that Andre Pruitt with a little bit of some weak PI calls. This was totally warranted. Dembski's completely ran over on the 10-yard line. Or actually, I guess they ruled it the 17. That's fine, though. First and goal for Winnipeg. Touchdown, Dalton Schoen. The Bombers then go for 2. I'm losing my mind. I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this game. And Zach Collaros throws a pick 2, I guess, as Campbell jumps in front of it and runs it all the way, all 110 to the other end to make this a 34-10 ball game. There'd be an onside kick attempt. The Riders would actually use their last timeout to ice Castillo. The onside kick attempt is close, but they rule that the Riders got the ball. Again, I thought Castillo was on it, and way after the whistle, that gets wrestled out of his hands. I still believe that, but that is not what they ruled it. And so the final score was 34-30 Saskatchewan. All in all, this is a game where I think if the Bombers make some small adjustments, they come out with the win here. And this is why I went into this game saying this is going to be an incredibly close game. I heard all the Riders are winning. There's no chance for Winnipeg. They're going to get blown out, blah, 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 blah. I didn't believe any of that shit. Because if you saw the preview that I made it very clear that I think these teams are incredibly similar in where they are. As if you really think about it, if you take away the Bombers' 1 loss to Toronto, the Riders and the Bombers have played the exact same season. Beaten everyone and lost to Calgary. Now, the Bombers are a little bit unlucky that they've had to play Calgary 3 times. But you're telling me if the Riders played Calgary again, it would go well for them? I don't think it would. I think Calgary's the best team in the West, despite their record. I know their record has them at second. I think Calgary is the team to beat out West. In terms of the way that they've smacked around us and Saskatchewan. But it is what it is. I think there's a lot that was good here. I think this showed that Collaros is the man still. But by God, like if we look here at Brady Oliveira averages 4.8 yards per carry. I like usually 5 or above. But it was only on 5 rushes. How the hell are you going to see, like, in my opinion, there was a very big misusage of the run game here. I needed to see some more. And they eventually started pulling out some screenplays and whatnot. But they pulled it out so late in the game, and they did it and just not the most ample times that it just didn't really work. You got, like, in my opinion, there needs to be a bit more reading of the defense and then adjusting in that way. This is where I think run-pass options are plays I want to see the Bombers utilize more. But it is what it is. Tomorrow, or I guess today when this video is uploaded, I will be driving back to Winnipeg, and I will be at the Banjo Bowl in this next week. I'm excited for that. And I'm hoping that the Bombers can get the win. At the end of the day, my hope for the 2-game series against Saskatchewan was, obviously I'd love the Bombers to win both, but I knew that a very realistic goal would be to go 1-1. They lost the game Labor Day in Saskatchewan in a very, very close game. And I'd like to see them get the win at home. And thankfully the Bombers usually play better at home. I say usually because they're not invincible, but usually they're better at home. I would be curious to see if a guy like Demario Houston we potentially get in the lineup eventually. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see if a guy like Vanderpool could get in. And I would like to see some of the adjustments for next game. And I think if the Bombers play more disciplined, I think if they utilize the run game better, I think if they protect Collaros a bit better, if they just improve one of those things or all of those things even a little bit, I think the Bombers get it done in the Banjo Bowl. So let me know what you guys thought of this game in the comment section down below. And actually before that, one last mention I would like to make was I had actually ran into someone else. Oh my God, I forget his name. Oh, he said his name. I think it was Logan, I think that was his name. At the hotel, another viewer of the channel. Bomber fan this time, though. Absolute great guy. And, thanks for saying hi. Very much appreciate that. And so, yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this game in the comment section down below. Were you pulling your hair out as well? Did you make the trip to Saskatchewan to see the game? What would you have done differently? Are you on the fire Jason Hogan train like I know a lot of people are? Are you just on a run the ball more, please train? Are you on the better discipline train? What train are you on? Let me know let me know all that stuff in the comment section down below. Leave a like, share the video, and subscribe if you have not already. And peace, love, and positivity, all you wonderful people at home. We will see you guys next time.